Copa America starts tomorrow. Euros in full swing, as you know, and there's action all day, every day, which means all kinds of boosts inside your BetMGM Sportsbook app, including the 50% Soccer Boost Pack, a 50% boost for 3 different bets, Odds Boost, Parlay Boost, and the Live Odds Boost, all available through the first round of matches at the Euros. Go check it out right now. Parlay Boost got to be at least 3 legs, plus 400 or higher. Odds Boost and Live Odds Boost got to be a minimum of minus 300 or higher. Inside your BetMGM Sportsbook app today. We've also got early college baseball today, an elimination game after the weather pushed things back last night. That one gets started at 11 o'clock. But let's start with something that really, to be honest, Joe, has very little impact. Again, we'll get into the Oilers and Panthers in just a minute. Very little impact on the betting world. But this is the second week in a row we're dealing with the passing of a legend. Last week, I was off when it happened, but Jerry West, right? And this week, last night, it's Willie Mays. Arguably the most skilled player in baseball history when you add it all up, right?
Get ready, Padres fans. It's time for the EcoWater SoCal Padres pregame show on the Padres Radio Network.
Tatis at third, 2 outs. Fernando takes off. He's going to steal home without a play.
Coming up, we'll have a recap of the previous Padres game, a preview of today's starting pitching matchup, and our keys to the game. Plus, we'll hear from manager Mike Shildt. From the Padres Radio Network, here's Sam Levitt.
San Diego Padres baseball coming up on 97.3 The Fan and the Padres Radio Network. Today the Padres take on the Philadelphia Phillies in the final game of a 3-game series. Our starting pitching matchup today for the Phillies, left-hander Ranger Suarez, and for the Padres, right-hander Matt Waldron. Hi, good everyone. Sam Levitt with you inside our San Diego studios. First pitch coming up at 10:05 a.m. in Philadelphia. Thank you for joining us for a little Padres and pancakes on this Wednesday morning. Coming up in the next 50 minutes, you'll hear from Padres manager Mike Shildt. We'll also hear from today's starting pitcher Matt Waldron. And in just a few minutes, we check in with Tony Gwynn Jr. But first, let's set the table. Brought to you by Fraser Farms Market. Set your table with the highest quality of natural and organic products from Fraser Farms Market, a San Diego original since 1971 with 3 locations, La Mesa Vista and Oceanside. Padres enter today with a record of 37-40. Padres have lost 5 in a row to start this road trip. Padres have now lost 9 consecutive road games. They're averaging just a bit more than 2 runs per game in those 9 losses. Padres have been outscored 44-21 in those last 9 losses on the road. Meanwhile, the Phillies are 49-24, the best record in the NL. Phillies have now won all 5 meetings against the Padres this season. Out of the Padres' last 5 games, last night may have been the toughest. Let's take a look back.
How did the Padres fare in their last game? Let's take a look back with our Padres Rewind. Presented by Hamul Casino. With thrilling slots and tables and all the best rewards, Hamul Casino has all the fun you're looking for. Hamul Casino. Fun above all else.
Let's start in the 6th inning. Padres down 1-0. There was a man on base for Luis Campusano.
Now he comes home, and Campusano swings, sends it in the air deep to center field. Ponche's back on the warning track, feeling for the wall, leaps up, gonna go! Luis Campusano over the 4:01 marker in straightaway center field. A 2-run home run, and the Padres take a 2-1 lead.
Padres weren't done. Tyler Wade singled. He went to second base on a fly out to deep left field. Good aggressive base running by Wade. It paid off as Jurickson Profar dug in with 2 men away.
Nola deals, and that's lined into right field, a base hit. Wade is rounding third on his way. He'll score without a throw from Castellanos. An RBI single for Jurickson Profar, and the Padre lead is 3-1.
Padres still led just 3-1 heading to the bottom of the 8th inning. Wandy Peralta entered. He got the first 2 outs, but then it was Kyle Schwarber.
Here's the 0-1. Schwarber swings, hits it in the air to very deep right field. Peralta just kind of turns to watch. That'll go off the facing of the second deck and right. Schwarber's third home run in the last 2 games here. And we got ourselves a 1-run ball game in the bottom of the 8th. It's 3-2.
Robert Suarez came on to get the final out of the 8th inning. He was then working with a 1-run lead in the 9th. Bryce Harper singled, Alec Boehm singled as Harper went to third base. Bryson Stott was next.
2-0 to Stott. Swung on line the other way into left field, base hit. That'll tie the game. Harper comes in to score. It's 3-3, and the winning run now at second base with nobody out.
Then it was Nick Castellanos.
Winning run at second. First pitch on the way. Castellanos swings, hits it in the air down the right field line. Long run, Fernando. Over, he slides, can't make the catch. It bounces behind him. That'll get it done. Boehm rounding third, he'll score, and the Phillies walk it off. 4 straight hits against Suarez in the bottom of the 9th inning, and they come back to win it 4-3.
A really tough loss for the Padres as the Phillies win a second in a row to begin this series. The 5th consecutive loss for the Friars. Final score, Phillies 4 and the Padres 3. And that's where we are entering the finale of this 3-game series with first pitch coming up at 10:05 in Philadelphia. Let's go out to Citizens Bank Park.
Let's go inside the Padres broadcast booth for a deep dive on today's matchup from Tony Gwynn Jr. in our Padres game preview on the Padres Radio Network.
Tony, let's start with a look at this pitching matchup here today. A really good one. Matt Waldron, who's been terrific as of late on the mound for the Padres. Left-hander Ranger Suarez, who has been arguably the best pitcher in baseball this season, on the mound for Philadelphia. Let's start with Matt Waldron. Obviously a guy who has had a lot of success as of late, facing a very powerful Phillies lineup here today. Tony, what will be the keys for Matt Waldron on this afternoon in Philly?
I think just continuing to do what he's done. I think Matt's put himself in a kind of a category now where when teams face him, they got to kind of look at what he's presenting, because it's not your typical repertoire. And so he just needs to be as good as he's been, because honestly, I think, a different look for this Philly ball club might be a good thing for the Padres today. And him throwing this knuckleball and really presenting a different scenario for this potent offense, I think could be a good thing.
Yeah, it's a really good point. Maybe a different look would affect this Phillies lineup a little bit more. And I want to stay on the Phillies for a second before we talk about Ranger Suarez, because I got a phone call last night on the postgame show asking me if I thought the Phillies were the best team in the NL. And I said right now, to me, it's pretty clear. This is the best team in the NL. That doesn't mean much when it comes to winning an NL pennant, what happens in October. But right now, Tony, you look at this rotation, their lineup, their bullpen. This is a team that is really well structured, and they're playing really well right now.
This is a team that's been together for, the last 3 or 4 years, the majority of these guys. And, they've been through some tough, some good times. They've been through some bad. And I think over time, it starts to, build a callus on your ball club. And I don't think it's really been close since we saw them in San Diego. I think Philly's been the best team in baseball from that stretch till now, and you're getting a chance, unfortunately, to see it in these first 2 games of this series. I mean, even in a game in which the Padres go in, and they did that game went as scripted, really, up until the 9th inning. They did everything that they needed to do. They put themselves in a chance to win, and they bring in their closer who had been perfect all season, and you see how that offense really was able to navigate him and still find a way to win that ball game. So, yeah, I agree. I think this is the best team in baseball.
Yeah, they've been so impressive so far this year. One of the reasons for that has been the work of Ranger Suarez, who by the numbers has been arguably the best starting pitcher in baseball so far this season. He was really good against the Padres in late April here in San Diego. Against a guy like Suarez, we know the Padres have had their issues with left-handed starters. How does the Padres offense get it going today against this very tough lefty in Ranger Suarez?
I mean, quite frankly, if we were going off of how Ranger has thrown the ball to this point, you just got to hope he has an off night. I mean, he's been that good all season long. I mean, he comes into this game with 10 wins already. He's got a 1.77 ERA. That tells you he needs to not be on his game in order for the Padres to really try to make headway here. And can you consider how much they've struggled against left-handed pitching in general? They got an uphill climb in this ball game, but we've seen them. We watched them like yesterday against a very good Aaron Nola find a way to give themselves a chance to win, and that's been pretty consistent for the most part this season. They haven't always found that way to win, but they've given themselves a chance. You just got to hope that they can pull that off again here today.
Finally, Tony, we learned some very sad news last night. Willie Mays, one of the greatest of all time to ever step on a baseball field, passing away at the age of 93. You and Jesse talked about it during the broadcast last night, did a really nice job talking about the player in person that Willie Mays was. I mentioned it on the post game last night, and obviously all the tributes pouring in last night and today. Just your thoughts again on Willie Mays and the impact Willie had on this game. Some would say the best to ever step on a baseball field, bar none of anybody that's ever done it. Just a remarkable player in person.
That seems to be the consensus, at least among the folks I talked to in this game, that Willie Mays was the best to ever do it. And obviously this leaves a huge void in our game, losing one of the greats, if not the greatest of all time. To ever lace them up, and this hits. I mean, so many different generations. Yeah. I mean, of players. I mean, from Willie's generation to we saw the messages from the likes of Ken Griffey Jr., yeah. Barry Bonds. It even filters into my generation of players. That's the kind of reach that Willie Mays had, and it's certainly a sad day for Major League Baseball and sports fans across the world.
Yeah, you mentioned even this generation. I saw a really nice post from CC Sabathia. Just so many great tributes pouring in, and obviously Willie, just a tremendous player in person in our game. Tony, as always, appreciate the time. We'll talk to you and Jesse coming up at 9:55 a.m. here in San Diego as the Padres wrap up this series and road trip. Thanks so much as always.
Thank you, Sam.
All right, that is Tony Gwynn Jr. joining us here on our EcoWater SoCal Padres pregame show as we get ready for today's game here on the Padres radio network. Padres trying to snap this 5-game losing skid and trying to avoid going 0-6 on a road trip. If the Padres don't win here today, it would be the first time the Padres went winless on a road trip of at least 6 games since 2009. So the Padres trying to avoid that here today. They've got arguably the guy, well, really not arguably, the guy who's been the best for them on the mound as of late, right-hander Matt Waldron. But like we talked about with Tony, the Padres facing maybe the best starting pitcher to this point in baseball in 2024, and that's Phillies left-hander Ranger Suarez. So it's not going to be easy. The Padres trying to snap this 5-game skid and end this road trip on a high note before heading back home to San Diego. When we come back, we'll hear from Padres manager Mike Shildt, plus a little bit later, we hear from today's starting pitcher Matt Waldron. As always, if you want to get involved on our pregame coverage, you can do that in a number of different ways. You can tweet at me at SammyLev, SammyLev. Instagram DMs open as well. Sammy Lev there too. You can also comment on our various video streams. Let me know, what is your key to today's game? Our pregame coverage continues after this on the Padres Radio Network. Welcome back to the EcoWater SoCal Padres pregame show on the Padres Radio Network. Your water perfected. EcoWater SoCal. Your water should be perfect. Find them online at EcoWaterSoCal.com. Sam Levitt with you inside our San Diego studios as we get ready for today's game on the Padres Radio Network. Final game of this 3-game series between the Padres and the Philadelphia Phillies. Padres wrapping up this 6-game road trip before returning home to San Diego tomorrow. Start of a 7-game homestand tomorrow, 4 against the Brewers and then 3 against the Washington Nationals. Padres entered today a record of 37-40, trying to get back on track, and the Phillies looking for their 50th win of the season. They come in at 49-24. Let's hear from the Padre manager before today's game.
Let's pull up a seat in the manager's office and hear from Padres manager Mike Shildt. Presented by Sinley Food. Spice up your culinary life.
Day game after a night game, so no pregame media availability today for Mike Shildt. So let's hear a little bit of what Mike had to say after last night's loss. You look at this 5-game losing streak for the Padres, and I think you could very easily say that last night was the toughest, the most heartbreaking for this team, considering the Padres had a 3-1 lead with 2 outs in the 8th inning. Then Kyle Schwarber, a home run against Wandy Peralta in the bottom half of the 8th to make it 3-2. Robert Suarez came on, got the final out of the 8th inning, went back out for the 9th inning, trying to protect a 1-run lead. And in the span of 4 batters, there were 4 straight hits. The Phillies scored 2 runs in the process, and just like that, the Phillies had a 4-3 walk-off win. Here was Mike Shildt talking after last night's game.
Mike, how do you explain or put into words what's happening right now after a loss like that one?
It's hard to articulate. It clearly hurts. Scratched and clawed, did everything we possibly could to win a game, and did a lot of good things right, and just the end wasn't good enough. Robert's been tremendous for us all year. I mean, those guys have been amazing, and they had clearly had a good plan, and we were able to get some good swings off. And but no, I mean, it was shaping up to be a really nice team win with a lot of contributions from everybody. Those contributions don't count as much when you don't bring it home.
It was shaping up to be a nice win for the Padres, and to Mike Shilt's point, a lot of things did go right yesterday. You could point to a number of different things, right? The bottom third of the lineup, creating the rally in the 6th inning, the 2-run home run by Luis Campusano to give the Padres a lead in that 6th inning. What the bullpen did until Wandy Peralta gave up the home run to Schwarber, Matsui, Morejon, Estrada, all scoreless appearances, but obviously not enough as the Phillies came back to win it. Yesterday, before the game, Mike Shildt was asked about Matt Waldron, so let's hear a little bit of that. Here was Mike on what's led to the consistency as of late for Waldron.
Blend of the usage. So, the velocity of the knuckleball, the usage of the knuckleball, coupled with the actual pitching in situations relative to a really good pitch, which is a sweeper that he can use multiple times for different reasons, and also a heater that plays up that he can command for the most part at 90-92, and the blend of what that looks like. We continue to get that, and him and Higgy continue to do their magic, and we'll continue to see positive results.
You mentioned Mike Shildt, or you heard Mike Shildt mention Kyle Higashioka there. Higgy back in the lineup for the Padres. Here today, we take a quick look at the Padres lineup today. Luis Arraez at first base leading off. Fernando Tatis Jr. back in there in right field batting second today. Jurickson Profar in left field batting third. Manny Machado, the DH, batting cleanup. Donovan Solano at third base batting fifth. Ha-Seong Kim at shortstop batting sixth. Jackson Merrill in center field batting seventh. Kyle Higashioka doing the catching batting eighth. And Tyler Wade playing second base batting ninth with right-hander Matt Waldron on the mound for San Diego. So we saw Tatis and Kim get days off from the starting lineup yesterday. Today it's Jake Cronenworth not in the lineup for the Padres, presumably just getting a day off for Cronenworth. Tyler Wade at second base today for the Pods. Let's tell you who's hot, who's not.
Which player is locked in at the dish? Who needs to kick things up another notch? This is Who's Hot, Who's Not on the Padres Radio Network.
We begin with a look at the hot category. Let's take a look at one Padre to begin this thing. Jurickson Profar, an 11-game on-base streak, batting, or I should say, a .432 on-base percentage in that span. 2 home runs, 9 RBIs in those 11 games. Profar enters today leading the National League in on-base percentage at .419 and tied for the lead in batting average at .320. Think about that for a second here on June 19th. Profar leading the NL in on-base percentage and tied for the lead in batting average. There is a reason this guy is the leading vote getter among National League outfielders right now for the All-Star game. It is well-deserved. He has been awesome and continues to be awesome again, an 11-game on-base streak. Alec Bohm, his last 5 games, 12 for 23 with 3 doubles, 1 home run, and 8 RBIs. He's been great for the Phillies. Kyle Schwarber, his last 11 games, batting .386 with 6 home runs, 2 doubles, 13 RBIs, has also walked 7 times in that span. 3 home runs in the first 2 games of this series for Schwarber. We'll have more on him coming up later. In the not category, Fernando Tatis Jr., since that 17-game hit streak was snapped, his past 5 games at the plate, just 2 for 18. Jake Cronenworth, like we said, not in the lineup here today, but Cronenworth has just a couple of hits in his last 7 games. Ha-Sung Kim, his last 13 games, batting just .180. And for the Phillies, we take a look at David Dahl in the number 8 spot for the Phillies here today. Had a couple of home runs in the first few games of his early Phillies career, but since then, not playing all that well, batting just .200 on the year. He's in the lineup, the former Padre, for the Phillies today. And that's a look at who's hot, who's not, as we walk you up towards first pitch coming up at 10:05 in Philadelphia. When we come back, we'll hear from today's starting pitcher, Matt Waldron, plus we have a full look at the out-of-town scoreboard, take a look at our keys to the game, and later we have a very, very deep dive into today's pitching matchup, a really good one, a matchup of 2 guys that are pitching as well as just about anybody in the National League right now. Matt Waldron for the Padres and Ranger Suarez on the mound for the Phillies. First pitch at 10:05. I'm Sam Levitt on the Padres Radio Network. Our EcoWater SoCal Padres pregame show continues here on the Padres Radio Network. Sam Levitt with you inside our San Diego studios. We go out to Jesse Agler and Tony Gwynn Jr. in just about 25 minutes at 9:55 a.m. First pitch at 10:05 in Philadelphia. Padres trying to avoid a 3-game sweep at the hands of the Philadelphia Phillies and trying to avoid an 0-6 road trip to New York and Philly. We'll see if they can do it here today with right-hander Matt Waldron on the mound for the Padres. We'll hear from Waldron coming up in just a little bit, so stay tuned for that. Let's update you on the injuries for Yu Darvish, who will appear today. We'll tell you where in a moment, and also an update on Fernando Tatis Jr.
Who's in? Who's out? This is the Bada Fulkerson Injury Report, presented by San Diego's Bulldog Injury Attorneys, who hope you're never in an accident. But if you are, make Bada Fulkerson the first call you make. Hit him up 24/7 at badafulkerson.com.
Yu Darvish making a rehab start today in Fort Wayne, Indiana, against the Wisconsin Timber Rattlers. So Darvish, who has not pitched since late May in a major league game, we know on Friday he threw about 60 pitches in the bullpen, and the Padres electing to send him out for a rehab assignment. He will start today in Fort Wayne later on, and we'll keep an eye on that one later on this evening as Darvish appears for the Fort Wayne Tin Caps. Always an exciting moment and day for the minor league affiliates when you get a guy like Yu Darvish coming to town. So Yu Darvish on a rehab assignment today. We'll see what the next steps are after that, assuming Darvish comes out of it well. As far as Fernando Tatis Jr., part of the reason he sat yesterday, according to Kevin Acee in the San Diego Union Tribune, is that Tatis is dealing with a lingering quad injury. He took the day off yesterday, aside from entering in the bottom half of the ninth inning for defense. And these were some quotes that Kevin had this morning from Fernando. Quote, "It has showed up that I'm not stealing bases. I'm not sprinting the way I can. It's limiting my game a little bit, but still not an excuse. And I still need to go out there trying to be the best baseball player that I can. Today was to give it a rest a little bit because it's been really banged up. It's been really sore. One day is not going to do it, but the medical staff and myself, we're going to try to keep finding a way to get it back." So that was a quote from Fernando Tatis Jr. earlier today from Kevin Acee in the San Diego Union Tribune. Again, it doesn't seem like anything too serious for Fernando because he's back in the lineup here today playing right field, and he felt well enough yesterday to come in for defense in the ninth inning. Couldn't get to that ball off the bat of Nick Castellanos, that blooper down the right field line. Neither here nor there. Seems like Fernando, for the most part, is okay, but continuing to deal with a lingering quad issue. And that's a look at our injury report as the Padres get set to take on the Phillies. Let's take a quick look at the out-of-town scoreboard.
Let's take a trip around the Bigs and tell you about the scores you need to know in our out-of-town scoreboard. Presented by Jensen Meat, where great taste meets integrity.
Padres and Phillies playing a day game, so we have just one game going on already, and everything else coming up a little bit later on. Tigers and the Braves in Atlanta, first inning, no score there. Everything else is yet to begin. Reds and the Pirates in Pittsburgh at 9:35. Cardinals and the Marlins at 9:40 in Miami. The Giants and the Cubs at 11:20 in Chicago. D-backs and the Nationals at 1:05 in D.C. Mariners at the Guardians in Cleveland at 3:40. Orioles and the Yankees at 4:05 in New York. Red Sox and the Blue Jays at 4:07 in Toronto. Rays and the Twins at 4:40 in Minnesota. Astros and the White Sox at 5:10 in Chicago. Mets taking on the Rangers in Arlington at 5:05. Mets are red hot. They've won 7 in a row. Dodgers and the Rockies in Colorado at 5:40. Brewers and the Angels in Anaheim at 6:40. And finally, the Royals and the A's in Oakland at 6:40. And that is a full look at the out-of-town scoreboard. We'll have much more on those games coming up a little bit later during our post-game coverage. Well, we'll dive in deeper into what Matt Waldron has done so well as of late. But just to give you an idea, his last 7 starts, Matt Waldron has a 1.91 ERA. He has been really, really good for the Padres as of late. And one of the aspects for Matt Waldron that has been really impressive lately is that he's getting off to very good starts in his outings. If you remember, in the early part of his season, the first couple of innings were a real problem for Matt Waldron, but as of late, he's been settling in earlier and earlier. He has been really good in the early part of his starts. Matt Waldron and I talked last week at Petco Park. Here was part of our conversation last week, and he starts by talking about how he's been able to be more consistent in the early part of his outings.
I'm getting up and down through lineups early and, actually not using all my pitches as well, like making it a little bit, gives me a better chance the second time through the lineup. But yeah, I'm just, a lot of it's the work and just the preparation and being ready right away. Crazy concept being a starter, but just obviously I've worked on that and, I hope to keep that going.
You've talked about that preparation, some of the adjustments you've made. I mean, what are you doing differently preparation-wise before these starts?
Yeah, I think it's, actually it's simply just focusing more on that first inning and being ready sooner and just taking whatever I work on in the bullpen to have that ready in the start. And just a lot of it's mental and just focusing on that and what makes me click. And sometimes it's just, not doing too much. It's just finding the right rhythm, I think, is what has helped a lot.
Finding that rhythm early in starts, how much is that a function of the knuckleball and how you're landing it, how you're using it early on?
Yeah, and I think to ignore, I've used the knuckleball a lot more now, so I don't think I would have expected that. I thought 30 was a pretty good number, 30%, and it's just the way this game is sometimes. These hitters are so good that you don't really know what you're going to have that day, and just working with what you have, and when that thing's going, it's pretty easy to rely on. It makes it a lot easier when that thing's going. And to say easy, it's far from easy, but it's just it's, I guess, more fun and creative, and I can tap into that a little bit more.
We're joined by Padres starting pitcher Matt Waldron here on the Padres Radio Network. We had Tom Candiotti on the pregame show when Arizona was in town. Obviously a long, successful career as a knuckleballer. And Tom and I talked a lot about your relationship with Tom. Can you just give us your perspective on Tom Candiotti and meeting him a few years ago and the impact he's had on you?
Yeah, it's been awesome. He, from the first time I met him until now, he's just always willing to help. And I think I got to take advantage of that. I was a little nervous at first just to ask a former big leaguer for a lot of help, but you see how much he cares, and I can't thank him enough for that. But it's a difficult pitch to learn, especially in the middle. You can't really learn out there a whole lot, so you work in the middle of the week, and just he's just been a great, whatever I need, I feel like he helps me with, and it's great.
And it seems like he's a part of that fraternity of guys who throw a knuckleball. It really seems like one of those unique things in baseball where if you throw a knuckleball, you're sort of welcomed into the group, exactly. and everybody wants to help you. Does it feel like that?
Oh, yeah, absolutely. And I think that shocked me at first, is understanding that there's guys, willing to, that just understood it a lot better than I did. And it was a shock to me at first. There was a nice little, click of them, so it's good. They're just helpful, and I need that. This game can be so tough.
That was Matt Waldron not earlier this week, but last week, our conversation at Petco Park, and we'll hear from Matt Waldron, I'm sure, this coming week at Petco Park as well, and we'll talk plenty more about Matt Waldron as we go along here in our pregame coverage. Sam Levitt with you here inside our San Diego studios on the Padres Radio Network. Let's give you today's keys to the game.
How will the Padres unlock a victory in today's game? These are the keys to the game. Presented by Honor Buick GMC Hummer in National City.
Key number 1, no more Schwarbums. This was our first key yesterday. It's still our first key here today because the Padres failed at securing the key yesterday because Kyle Schwarber hit a home run. So back to our first key here today. The Padres have to somehow, some way find a way to limit Kyle Schwarber. 3 home runs in this series. Schwarber now has the 4th highest OPS of any active player against the Padres at 1075 in his career against them. Going back to the start of 2022, when he joined the Phillies, Schwarber has 14 home runs against the Padres. That includes the 3 he hit in the 2022 NLCS. Can the Padres keep Kyle Schwarber in the yard here today? That is key number 1. It was our first key yesterday, and we're going with it once again for this series finale. Key number 2, the Padres getting it done against a left-handed starter. The Padres faced lefty Ranger Suarez today. He has been arguably the best pitcher in baseball this season. That is a tough test in and of itself, but it's a tough test for another major reason. The Padres have struggled mightily against left-handed starters this year, especially in the last couple of months. In the last 21 games where the Padres have faced the lefty starter, those pitchers have a 1.64 ERA in 126 innings. 16 of the 21 starts, those pitchers have allowed 1 or 0 runs. Think about that for a second. 21 games against the left-handed starter, those starters have a 1.64 ERA. So, essentially, not to point it out too much, lefty starters as of late against the Padres collectively, they're basically having a no-doubt Cy Young season against the Padres offense. That's not going to work. If the Padres want to make it to the postseason, everything they want to accomplish, they have to be better against left-handed starting pitching and lefties in general. The run of 21 starts we just talked about, that began with Ranger Suarez going 8 innings against the Padres in late April. He gave up just 1 run in that game. The Padres have to be better against the left-handed starter. They're facing a great one today. They are. But an opportunity to hit a lefty today. That's key number 2. And key number 3, start it up. Padres need a big-time start for Matt Waldron today. Padres starters have not been great lately. They've allowed 16 earned runs in their last 4 games. Nobody has gone 5 complete innings. For context, in their 14 games before this most recent stretch of 4, Padres starters led the NL in innings pitched and went at least 5 innings in 13 of those 14 games. So, let's be honest, the last 4 games starting pitching has not been great on the whole, but the starting pitching before that really was very good. They could use a big-time start today from Matt Waldron to get this starting rotation back on track a little bit. We'll see if Waldron can do that here today, and that's a look at our keys to the game with first pitch coming up in just less than 20 minutes at 10:05 a.m. here in San Diego. We come back, we focus on a very important player in the Padres lineup that you'll want to watch for today. Also, we dive even deeper into this pitching matchup between Matt Waldron and Ranger Suarez as we get ready for the series finale coming up in Philadelphia on the Padres Radio Network. Our EcoWater SoCal Padres pregame show continues here on the Padres Radio Network. Sam Levitt with you inside our San Diego studios. We go out to Jesse and Tony in less than 10 minutes. First pitch coming up at 10:05 in Philadelphia as the Padres complete this 3-game series and this 6-game road trip before heading home to San Diego for the start of a 7-game homestand tomorrow. Let's take a quick look at our keys to the game, the ones that you have told me about. We bring up a YouTube comment from Rod. Rod saying keys to the game start with the small ball since we struggle against left-handed pitching. Look at more pitches versus swinging at the first pitch. Rod, we'll see if the Padres take your key and run with it. Maybe more patient today against Ranger Suarez on the mound for the Phillies. Paul, who is watching from Liverpool, listening and watching from Liverpool this morning. Paul, thank you for joining us. Paul saying the key to the game is twofold as I see it, Sammy Lev. Matt Waldron must pitch well and as deep into the game as he can, and our batters must capitalize on any opportunity Ranger Suarez gives them. Base runners must be brought home, as I think it's going to be a tight one-run affair. Paul, good keys there. We'll see if it is a close game here today. Maybe another close one. Certainly was that way last night. A 1-run loss for the Padres in Philadelphia. Let's tell you what to watch for in this one.
What's the one thing Sam Levitt will be keeping his eye on in today's game? This is What to Watch For. Presented by Genesis Home Improvements, San Diego's trusted painting, roofing, and window company. Save 15% today on a new beginning for your home. Visit GenesisHomeImprovementsSD.com.
What to watch for in today's game? How about the Padres leadoff man, Luis Arraez? The Padres could really use him to get hot again. Arraez has gone hitless 5 times in the past 9 games, which is just not what he does. He does not go hitless very often, but he has done that 5 times in the last 9. Arraez is batting just 184 combined in the past 9 games. So when you talk about base traffic and how the Padres beat Ranger Suarez today, getting Luis Arraez on base, that's a significant part of it. So that's what to watch for in this game. Can Luis Arraez get it going for the Padres at the very top of their lineup? Let's dive into a really good pitching matchup for this one. Matt Waldron on the mound for the Padres against Phillies lefty Ranger Suarez.
Let's take a look at who's on the bump today with our starting pitching preview. Presented by Chimney Sweeps, Inc., San Diego's trusted chimney and fireplace service company for 40 years. Call Chimney Sweeps, Inc. at 1-800-CHIMNEY or book an inspection online at chimneysweepsinc.com.
The 27-year-old Matt Waldron on the mound for San Diego. In 2024, 4-6, a 3.66 ERA, 14 starts, 76-plus innings. He struck out 70, walked 23. Last start against the Mets, he went 7 innings, 2 earned runs given up, 3 hits allowed. His last 7 starts, he has been one of the best pitchers in the NL. Bottom line, 1.91 ERA in those last 7 starts in 42 innings and a third. Made a long relief appearance last season against the Phillies. Guess who hit a home run against him? Kyle Schwarber hit a home run against Waldron. Again, a big key today, controlling Kyle Schwarber. The arsenal for Waldron: 4-seam fastball, the knuckleball. He'll use that on average 38% of the time. Sweeper, sinker, and a cutter. Meanwhile, on the mound for the Phillies, left-hander Ranger Suarez. He has been terrific. 10-1, a 1.77 ERA on the year, 14 starts, 86-plus innings. He struck out 91 and walked only 19. His 1.77 ERA is the lowest in the major leagues. His 0.88 whip is the lowest in the major leagues. His 10 wins are tied for the most in the major leagues, and his 186 opponent batting average is 5th lowest in the major leagues. Bottom line, Ranger Suarez has arguably been the best starting pitcher in baseball this season, and based on the numbers, I don't know that it's all that arguable. He's been that good. Last start against the Orioles, he was good again. 6 2/3 innings, 1 earned run given up, 6 hits. He struck out 6, walked 2. But one thing to note, his last 4 starts, despite the great overall numbers, Suarez has been a little bit more human. A 3.10 ERA. That's compared to a 1.36 ERA in his first 10 starts. He faced the Padres in late April. 8 innings, 1 earned run given up. The 1 run he allowed was on a solo home run to Eggy Rosario. The splits for Suarez against righties, they're batting 192. Against lefties, he is really tough against them. They're batting 161. And the arsenal for Suarez, a sinker, curveball, four-seam fastball, changeup, and every once in a while mixes in the cutter. And that's a look at our starting pitching matchup, a good one here today between Matt Waldron and Ranger Suarez. You've been listening to the EcoWater SoCal Padres pregame show on the Padres Radio Network. EcoWater SoCal, your water should be perfect. Find them online at EcoWaterSoCal.com. Padres enter today a record of 37-40. This road trip, let's be honest, has not gone very well for the Padres. They have lost 5 in a row to start this road trip. The Padres have also lost 9 consecutive road games. We'll see if the Padres can bounce back here today, because meanwhile, the Phillies, the best record in the NL, they are looking for their 50th win of the season here today. So, can the Padres wrap up this trip before they come back home with a win? We're going to find out. When we come back, Jesse Agler, Tony Gwynn Jr. have the full starting lineups, first pitch, and then all the play-by-play. I'll talk to you on our post-game show. You're listening to your home for San Diego Padres baseball, 97.3 The Fan, and the Padres Radio Network. Enjoy the game, everybody.